The focus of our webcast today is Transform Your Business with Business Central. We're very excited to have Oliver, our solutions architect, presenting for us today. Microsoft's Business Central is an all-in-one business management solution built for small to mid-sized businesses. It brings together all your systems and processes into one single solution. So this includes financials, sales, service, and operations, just so you can gain an end-to-end view of your entire business. Now, to see the product in action and actually understand the functionalities of the solution, I will now pass it over to Oliver, and I hope you enjoy the presentation.
Thank you very much, Shanella. So just a quick introduction. My name is Oliver Lamaka. I'm a solutions architect for CRM Dynamics, or CRMD for short. I'm not going to read through everything that you see on the slide here because we are recording this and we will provide you with a recording. But in summary, I have been in the Business Central channel nearly from the inception of the product since 1999. So I've been working on it for about 20 plus years. I am also a former accountant and a former system administrator. So I used to work in IT after I was an accountant and prior to joining the software consulting channel with Business Central. I'm also an operational consultant. So I do both financial and operational. What that means for you as a customer in your implementations and projects is that I know the entire software and that I don't just focus on one aspect of it, such as, for example, finance versus warehouse management versus manufacturing, etc. Some of the recent projects that I've been involved in are pretty massive or pretty large across North America. In fact, prior to joining CRMD in the last year plus, I worked on very large projects across North America. Most of my customers were 80%, 90% in the US. And one of them is one of the largest trailer leasing companies in North America, and one's actually a manufacturer of trailers. So if you're in the 401 and you've seen the trucks called Stoughton, that's one of my clients. I'm also, as I mentioned, an operational consultant. So I worked a lot in the food industry, doing a lot of manufacturing. So I'm well versed in within that process. From a material handling perspective, I implemented and was a solutions architect that developed the product that's widely used nearly 50 companies in North America, specific to the equipment distribution, forklift, heavy machinery, mining equipment, construction equipment, agricultural equipment. So the latest one that I did was about a year and a half ago for a company in New York. And finally, the latest one that I just recently went live with a couple of months ago is a parts distribution company that distributes parts for the construction industry. So if you're looking at all those high rises going up across the city, it's more than likely that the parts that this fastening company has put together are being used in those constructions. I'm also a certified developer, although I don't develop. What just that means for you and your project is that if there are any development that are required, I'm well versed in developing the solution for you from an architecture perspective. Our webinar agenda, I should have actually moved the introduction over to this next slide. My apologies for that. So I did that last minute. We're going to go through introduction, which I've already done, who we are as a company, and we're going to go to the product demo, and we're going to do some questions and answers afterwards. So who are we, or who we are as a company? You can read through all of this later on once you get the webinar recording, but I want to make sure that you understand why I decided to join the company and why I trust them as a company to work for after having worked 20 plus years with another partner. Just a little bit of background. When I was with another Microsoft partner, I met CRM Dynamics 10 plus years ago, and I had chosen them because I was responsible as an account manager and a solutions architect to select partners that would integrate to our Business Central platform. And what they offered at the time was CRM, Microsoft CRM, Microsoft Sales. So I knew I trusted them, so I decided to support them and ensure that every single one of our customers who needed CRM were going to them as our partner. So from that perspective, I trusted them. As you can see in the slide in here, they've got 20 years worth of experience, and you saw that I've got 20 years of experience in Business Central. So it made a lot of sense when I became available that they approached me and said, "Hey, Oliver, would you like to work with us and expand our footprint with regards to the Microsoft ecosystem?" The reason that's very important for you to be aware of is that when I was working with a previous partner, it was always frustrating for me that we were only offering one product, because for me as a former account manager, as a salesperson, it was so important for me to be able to pull information out of the ERP system or financials so that it can help me sell better and communicate to my clients from a sales perspective. On the other hand, it doesn't matter what you do on the ERP side if it can't be supported by sales, because you could be making money financially, but if you don't know how much more money you could be making or perhaps losing because you weren't able to use a proper CRM system. So it just made a lot of sense for us to come together, because I trusted them with my clients, and now we were working together to ensure that we are putting together a solution for our customers and taking advantage of the Microsoft ecosystem, starting with the Office product with Windows, and then now with Business Central with CRM Sales, and in the future there are opportunities with customer service, project services, and field services in the application. So that's a little bit of a background on CRM Dynamics and why we are doing this together, and notwithstanding the fact that they've received all these accolades and awards and they are a gold certified partner. So to make sure you understand where we are taking this product of Business Central. So now let's go into the demonstration itself. Here is the demo agenda. We're going to go through an overview and some of the key features. We're going to focus on the Microsoft integration, which I mentioned to you earlier, which is the Microsoft ecosystem, because now I'm sure you're using Office today. You've got Word, you've got Excel, you've got Outlook. So we're going to leverage and take advantage of all of those. We're going to go into the role center and navigation, just so you understand how easy it is to navigate and use the software, regardless of who you are or what your functionalities are that you're responsible for. And the rest of this, the agenda below, from sales to purchase invoicing, what I'm going to do here is demonstrate a focus on integration and workflow. I'm sure you've seen a lot of demos in Business Central on YouTube by Googling or Binging it. I'm not just going to show you the clicks. I'm actually going to show you why Business Central is important to you, and inherently what it means from an accounting perspective, from an inventory management perspective, and most importantly, from audit and traceability perspective. Sorry. So here we go. We have a few slides in here, but we're going to get into the software very quickly shortly. As you heard earlier, Shanella mentioned that the product is a full integrated solution, ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning. All these buckets are all integrated in one. What this means to you is in real time, as soon as you post transaction in one area, let's say a sales invoice, it'll automatically in real time affect financials. At the same time, once you ship a product, it will affect inventory. As a result of it affecting inventory, it will affect the GO. So what that means for you, because it is real time, it's not batch, although you can do batching if you want to. Doing a month-end reconciliation and looking at the books is always going to be up and running at the same time, so you don't have to worry about, hey, let's run this report at the end of the day. The software has pure warehouse management system, or WMS. Under the operations management circle here, you will find manufacturing. So that's have a manufacturing granule or module inherent to the software. Project management is really what we call job management. It's not Microsoft project per se or Gantt charts, but rather imagine you had a big project or capitalization project that you want to do, and you want to track all your budgets and actuals against that so that you can see what your profitability is like. That's a feature that's inherent to the software. Next up, key features. Some of the key features of the software is the fact that this is a pure cloud-based solution, which means for you is that there's no need for you to worry about administration, installing clients on individual computers, worrying that the software has been upgraded. Now the client has to be upgraded. It ensures that with multi-factor authentication, that you're able to provide added security on top of your database, so that you don't have to worry about ransomware or hacking. Obviously, because it's also in the cloud, the uptime is essential, as opposed to worrying whether or not your on-premise server is going to support the growth of your database and the speed that it requires to provide you the throughput you need. I'm not going to read out all of these different points. I'm just going to highlight the big ones. Of course, Microsoft integration, which you'll see very shortly. But more importantly, if you look at the back half of the key features here, for a lot of companies who are suffering from their current systems, such as QuickBooks, what Business Central offers you is a multi-company, multi-currency environment. It's very, very powerful. You can have as many companies as you like in one database. You're not paying any more money for each additional company. You can do consolidation that allows you to do foreign exchange revaluation, especially if your parent company is American or your parent company is Canadian. You got multi-currency subsidiary companies. Most importantly as well, it's got a lot of compliance and security in terms of ensuring that from an audit perspective, as your company grows, as you look for investors and want to audit your books, it ensures that there is pure audit trail and traceability in everything that you do, which at the end of the day is a big advantage to you from a day-to-day perspective, whether you're in operational or in finance or accounting, that your month-end reconciliation is made easier. And I'm going to demonstrate that to you, make sure you understand that throughout the demonstration today. Remote access, as I mentioned earlier, the software is purely cloud-based, which means it's remote access. As you will see shortly, you can actually see it at the background here. There's a tab in here. I'm ready to go. I'm connected to the database via a web browser. I'm using Microsoft Edge in here. It will run on Google Chrome, and it will also run on a Mac computer using Safari. What's important to note here is that the software is capable of being used off of a desktop, a smartphone, and a mobile device, tablet device. So if you're wondering, what's the advantage of that to me? Now imagine for a second that you have a warehouse. Now imagine walking around and being able to see the quantity on hand and doing a physical count. So imagine being able to, without even barcoding, looking up at the bin and seeing how many units you have of a particular product, and then quickly making the adjustment and doing a physical count. Imagine walking around if you're doing picking for warehousing or put away for receiving, and just looking at overall availability. That's what the system gives you, and the ability that you can, the ability to be able to optimize your point of view or user interface or UI using a tablet computer and a smartphone. And it's all done using an app that you can download from all the different stores, and of course you can run it off of your web browser. Outlook integration, as I mentioned to you earlier, one of the key elements of Business Central is that the fact that it's within the Microsoft ecosystem. If you've already invested in Office 365 or Dynamics 365 today, you're invested in an Outlook and many different Microsoft products. Imagine what that brings you now, the fact that now the software's Business Central is also integrated with Outlook. So how does it work? Assuming, for example, in this case, you are using the Outlook desktop client, which I like to use because it's got a lot more power than the web browser version. Just imagine being able to look at an email from your client and on the fact box navigation pane here, be able to see what they're about and the history of that company, the aging, and more importantly, be able to create a sales quotation from within this environment and have that quotation transferred over to Business Central. However, I also want to let you know, if you're interested in Microsoft Sales, Microsoft/CRM, that product is also integrated with Business Central directly. So no, you don't have to use Outlook for it. If you already have Microsoft CRM/Sales, you can also develop your quotation in those applications. Those quotes, once they get approved, become an order and they get transferred to Business Central for processing. Excel integration. This is by far the biggest. As you saw in my introduction, I'm a former accountant. As a former accountant, I love this. As a consultant, I also love this because what it does is allows me to take a table of information, such as in this case, customer ledger entries or AR history, and be able to say, I'd love to be able to create a report for that. I don't want to waste my time looking for a report. and I don't want to have to go to my IT to find the appropriate report for that. Wouldn't it be great for me to be able to send that directly to Excel and then use my inherent skill sets in Excel? Whether I'm 5 out of 10 in Excel, that's better than knowing how to create a report inside the software and develop your own charting, pivot tables, and Power Pivot. In fact, the other feature that I can show you in the future is called Edit Excel. What that will also do is allows you to transfer this information into Excel and then save it. Now imagine after you save that, you close it out, you come back the next day, you open the file, you refresh it, and the data is refreshed for you based on the filter criteria that you specified. So there's a lot of power in Excel, and that the term that Microsoft likes to use is self-serve reporting. Does it really matter that you can't find a report that meets your needs, or the report meets 90% of your need, but the table of information is already sitting in front of you? You're very good at Excel. Let's leverage that. Now, of course, there's a much more advanced feature set that's available to you called Microsoft Power BI. So the software is fully integrated with Business Central. What it does is allows you to take advantage of the Microsoft Power BI platform, which is one of the biggest, best, most widely used, and in my opinion, easier to use BI solution compared to something like Tableau. What it does is, of course, integrate with Microsoft Business Central. Now, the great thing about BI is that you don't have to have Business Central experience. You just have to understand the data sets in Business Central. So you yourself can develop your own Power BI reports. The final integration I wanted to share with you, and I'm sure this is probably going to be a very exciting feature to you. And I know I was excited when I saw this about 3 years ago when it finally came to fruition. Oftentimes, a lot of clients are saying, you know, Oliver, I don't really want to modify any reports in the software, but it would be great to make our sales invoice a little fancier looking. It'd be great to be able to modify our sales order, etc. Those are your two main customer-facing reports, right, along with credit memo. So what Microsoft has offered with Word integration, similar to what you probably know today, assuming you know all about mail merges in Microsoft Word, allows you to merge Microsoft Word into Business Central. So you can see on the right navigation pane here under XML mapping, you can now take these fields that are predefined, of course, and be able to add that onto your Word template. So with this Word template, as you can see, I've got the banners up here. So it's really, really fancy, right? Because of course it's leveraging your Word knowledge. You save this as a template, you upload it into my Business Central, and of course that's what your invoice is going to look like. However, as exciting as this may be, I'm also a consultant. I'm not just a salesperson. I'm the one actually in charge of implementing, and I could be implementing your project. There's a little bit of caveat that, of course, if you want some additional functionality and special calculation on a report, that will require development. Okay. So I didn't want to jump into the thank you there, so let's go ahead and look at the software and start the actual run through of the product. As I mentioned to you, the software on one of the slides is a role-based application. What that means is that once I log in using a URL here, it's just my demo database, each user is provided a role-centered environment. So this is the business manager's point of view, which means that I have access to many things that are accounting related. However, if you are your warehousing, purchasing, your environment will look slightly different. It is a multi-company application. It's very much like surfing the internet. If you click on some of these options, such as sales orders, it will take you to those sales orders that are currently open. We'll come back to that shortly. If I wanted to search for sales orders, as opposed to actually clicking on the menu, I can go in here. And what's really cool about this is what Microsoft is doing with the product and constantly improving it. It's called Insights, or very basic AI. So as you can see, I'm typing partially the name of what I'm looking for. In fact, I can actually type it backwards, and it will find that Oliver, I'm assuming based on your profile that you're probably looking for sales orders, which is basically the same thing as I would have done if I had clicked the menu option on the background. So what that tells you is that with the Microsoft upgrades coming up, hopefully one of these days, it's smart enough to know that if you're an accountant, you're probably looking for a specific document, etc. So I might no promises about that, but certainly this product has changed over the last 20 years, and it's really much more easier to use. In addition, if you're looking at the bottom of the screen here, oftentimes a lot of users are asking, so Oliver, how do I know how many open sales orders I have open out there that I should be shipping? Well, you know what? I don't have to tell you that. It's very much like your smartphone. If you're looking at a smartphone and it's telling you have 2 text messages, of course you're going to open it to see what those 2 text messages are. If it's 0, why bother opening it unless you want to look at history? So in this case, let's go back to the same sales orders. If I click that, it will allow me to open to see what those open sales orders are. Very much like what you would expect if you were on a website. If you click on the sales order here, it will allow you to open it and see what the actual sales order looks like. When you're looking at a document throughout the software, I'm just going to change that quickly. You will notice that there's always this screen at the right-hand side in here. Not always, but most of the time it's there. This is what we call a fact box. Why a fact box is important? It's important because whenever you're working with someone, Microsoft has made sure that you're always customer service focused. So what that means is as if you're working with a sales order, you know right away how many shipments you made to this customer over the lifespan of this customer, how many invoices. If you are scrolling down here, you can see customer details, the payment terms, and credit limit. If you go down here, you're going to see later on, I'm going to expand on this, you can see the item or the product history and availability and so on. So if I go back to the list previously, you can also see the same fact box so that anytime you want to look at a little bit of history on the customer, you're always customer service focused. Now that you've seen how I can find a menu option using the search menu, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you search menu up here, how to use another search feature within the actual window or page itself. So now if you're looking at these orders, you can see that I don't have many, but imagine in real life this would be hundreds or thousands of records, right? So imagine ring, customer calls up and they're saying, hey, Oliver, I'm from Trade Grapes. Can you tell me what the status is of my PO number 64? I know you can easily see it down there because I don't have a lot of records here, but imagine being able to go in here and say, what was that PO number again, number 64? And if I type that in there, it will automatically find it for me. In fact, the system is actually smart enough to find that number within the sales order number. Perhaps that was sales order number 64. The point I'm trying to emphasize here is that the software does allow you inherently to find records within the actual page or window that you are currently sitting at. So what that means to you is makes it easier for you to look for those records. It's everywhere, it's prevalent in the software. Now, the other thing that I want to show you as well from customer focused perspective, and this is really just the basic navigation of the software, is that you can see at this point how many of these sales orders have been shipped and not invoiced. So remember I told you earlier that one of the reasons Business Central is so powerful is that it provides you traceability, audit trail, and makes your month-end reconciliation that much easier. I'm not putting words in your mouth, but how often have you said to yourself, you know, it would be really, really nice if I can see what sales orders I've shipped so I know that I need to invoice them, because now we are sitting on, let's pretend today is November 1st, November 2nd, we're doing the October month end. Now imagine being able to do this and saying, which sales order should I ship? But then I want to filter on those sales orders that are not equal to 0 under the amount shipped, not invoiced. So now we know we have 3 sales orders that we can focus on in invoicing in real time. So a lot of advantages there. I just want to give you an intro as far as some of these unique features, because as I go through the software, I'm going to quickly use some of these techniques so that you're not getting lost and if you're not sure what exactly I'm doing, I just want to give you that quick introduction. There's so much more that I can show you from a role at a center perspective and a navigation perspective, but hopefully you can appreciate how much easier life would be from a workflow and notification perspective, that all this information is readily available to you, particularly this section here, which is called the activities queues, because it clearly gives you quick access to that information. So now let's go ahead and actually do some transaction here. As I mentioned earlier in the webinar agenda, I said we're going to focus on selling first, and then we're going to finish this off in the purchase invoicing. So I'm going to tie in the selling aspect, the warehouse management aspect, purchasing aspect, as well as the accounting aspect of it. Okay. So as you can see, by the way, I filtered this, so I'm missing some of the information I need. So I'm just going to clear the filter there so that I can have access to this order number. So I'm going to open up this order because that's the one I want to work with for a company called Al Distributed. The sales order here, I've got the important information I need. I'm selling it to Al Distribute. The date that they asked for it was November 18th, etc. The PO number is 88. Now on the line here, you will notice that I have an item already, which is a ball cap. I haven't updated the quantity yet, which is what I'm going to do for you during this show and tell and this transactional demo. However, I want to quickly show you and go back to what I was trying to show you earlier. You will notice that as soon as I've got this record highlighted here on the navigation pane here on the fact box, you will notice that the software in real time, this is very important, is telling us that I've got a total available inventory quantity physically on hand of 10. However, you will notice that the actual item available is actually 2. So now watch what happens if I drill down on that, on the 2, okay? What the system will tell me is, as of today, I have 10, but over the past X number of days prior to today, I've had a demand for that of 5 and a demand of that of 3. So what does that tell you from an inventory management perspective? It tells you that the software is tracking these in real time. And then it will also allow you to be able to drill down easily and to say, yeah, you know what, that order there for 3 for Art Planto. Let me take a look at what that document looks like. Imagine being able to open that up and seeing what that record is. And perhaps if you wanted to find out if there's any way we can adjust the delivery of this to a different date, because of course they're asking for it on November 10th, you can pick up the phone and say, hey, if you want to ask them for a favor, see if we can delay this order about a week so you can supply that next order. The point being is it's not necessarily what you're going to do with it, but it's giving you visibility of what the demands are for a particular inventory. So what I'm going to do right now, given the fact that I do know that I have only 2 available, is I'm going to demonstrate to you to real time what happens there. So on purpose, I'm going to put a quantity of 5 here. Obviously, clearly, if you do the math, you're probably thinking, yes, I'm down -3. So in fact, as soon as I do that, you will notice that it's telling me that I'm down to -3. So obviously, if I need this right now, there's nothing I can do to ship it out. But of course, hopefully there's some lead time available to you. However, in addition to inventory availability and management, you will also notice at the top here, the software will provide some notification to you. So if you're not paying attention to this, let's face it, oftentimes you're not looking, at least the software is telling you, first of all, in this case, it's telling you that you have 2 notifications. One is the fact that they're over the credit limit. So on purpose, I made sure they're over the credit limit. So if I go down here, you can see that they are over the credit limit. I also want you to appreciate that, yes, we can continue creating the sales order, but if you do have an approval the approval function turned on, it won't allow you to ship or invoice this order. So it won't stop you from creating it, but will stop you from shipping it. So which is very important because you don't want to stop the process, but you have to turn on the approval process. You can see here, there's an approval function here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop that down, and you will see that I now also have another an error, or not error, a notification saying, hey, Oliver, you don't have anything on hand. If I show the detail here, that's basically the same screen that you saw previously, similar to it, and I can see what I've got on demand. Okay, so now I'm -2. Now, here's the best part. From here, I can easily create a purchase order for that. So I realized that for most companies, you're going, Oliver, that's not the right thing to do. I would never say create a purchase order. Well, what I want to explain to you is this is just my quick way of being able to show you the integration with demand orders, such as the sales orders, availability, and inventory, and be able to integrate that with purchasing. However, I do understand, and the software does have a functionality for you to be able to go on a daily basis at the end of the day or at the end of the week and be able to, as a purchasing manager, ask the software, hey, Business Central, I've got all these demands. I know I'm down on quantity on hand based on demand orders from sales or from raw material consumption from a manufacturing perspective, or perhaps you just want to go through your weekly status purchasing. So there is a much more advanced feature for that, but of course that's a little bit more comprehensive. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and run this function just so that you can see the quick integration with purchasing. As soon as I do that, it allowed me to create a purchase order. So now if I wanted to buy 5, 3, or 10, I can do that. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and say 10. Now, if you're wondering, so how did it know, Oliver, what vendor number it should allocate that purchase order to? In the background, you can default a vendor number on top of your item card or the SKU or the item master for the ball cap. However, the software also has an inherent function that allows you to have other approved vendors that you can purchase from. This just happens to be the default. If I wanted to change this on the header, I can do that based on lead time, of course. So now that I've put 10 in here, what we're going to do here is we're just going to finish this process up and actually receiving it so that we have enough quantity to supply that demand order. So the next thing I'm going to do, outside of the fact that you probably can assume that, you know, more than likely I will probably take this purchase order and send it either through snail mail, through fax, but most importantly, it is integrated to Outlook so that you can send this as a PDF document directly to your vendor once you've set up their email address and so on. So we're just going to skip that step. However, what we're going to do here is show you integration and introduction, a very quick introduction to warehouse management. So as you can see, I have this purchase order number. I'm going to release it. And let's remember that's purchase order number 9. Okay, so I'm going to release it. By releasing it, I'm locking it down so that the warehouse department can see it. Why is that important? Because if it's open, it makes sense that they're not expecting it, right? But if it's released, I know that they should be expecting at some point. That's all part of the workflow and notifications in the software. Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to press escape in here, escape, and I'm going to press escape all the way in here. Just going to all the way out to the main screen. So I'm not going to switch around different screens here, but I can assure you the warehouse team will have a much more simplified version of what you're seeing here. However, let's do the scenario of that purchase coming in through the back door. Ring, ring, the doorbell rings. We open the dock door, and this truck comes in. They've got this package, this pallet, and it's specific to that PO number we just created. So how do we do that? So what warehouse will do is they'll create a receiving document, and they're going to identify which location they want to receive that into, which is your main location. And by the way, just a quick introduction to more advanced warehousing. We do have the ability to have as many locations as you like, whether it's totally physical, different physical addresses, or you just want to divide your existing warehouse in the back into multiple locations. We also have bid management, but we're not going to use that at this point to keep it simple. So why are we creating a warehouse receipt? From a warehouse management perspective, this is a much more simplified point of view of receiving purchase orders. In addition, from a security standpoint, it doesn't really make any sense for the warehouse department to be interacting with a purchase order. All they care about is to go into the source doc, get source document function here, look at the piece of paper or the bill of lading that came in from the supplier or the manufacturer, and we're going to grab that, and what that will do is it'll pull that purchase order into the warehouse receipt. What's most important to note here is, of course, you can be doing this anytime in the morning or in the afternoon, etc. However, imagine for a moment that that truck actually delivered multiple purchase orders from multiple vendors, or it could be the same vendor, multiple vendors. So if you're wondering, can I pull multiple purchase orders even from different vendors onto the same purchase order? The answer is yes. Of course, we make that easy for you. If you're also wondering, does the software have integration to the barcoding? Yes, there are a lot of barcoding applications that you can add to the software as an add-on, and that's something we can help you as well with. Now, let's go ahead and actually do the receiving here. Again, if you recall, I mentioned to you earlier that you can access this off of a mobile device or a tablet. So imagine you're walking around literally inspecting what you're receiving and doing this in real time, even before the driver leaves the door, right? Your warehouse. So that's a lot of advantage to you from a remote access perspective. Now, I'm not actually going to do this. I'm just going to mention it for you, right? So under the post in here, what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to post it. By posting it in real time, I'm now adding 10 more units for each into inventory, which means it will allow me to ship that sales order I had earlier. But I also want to mention to you that the software inherently in the background does have integration with putaways. So if you want to do a putaway where you do receive it in real time, but you want someone in the warehouse to actually put that away in a specific bin location, by aisle, by shelf number, by bin number, you can do that, but it's just not what we're going to cover today. So I'm going to go ahead and receive that, and I'm going to post the receipt. What will happen in the receipt as soon as I do that is it will automatically connect to the purchase order and receive that purchase order. So why is that important? So it's important because if I go back to that purchase order number 9, okay, and I open that up, and if you're wondering, oh, when did I have this PO and we need to ship that out today, I wonder if it's been received. Without having to talk to the warehouse department, you can go in here under the purchase order related warehouse, and you can go into, order, navigate receipts. You can go in here and see how many times this PO has been received. Of course, there's only one, there's no back order, we can see that. But here's the best part. I'm not actually going to open that document, but I'm going to show you the accounting aspect that's very important inherent to the application to tie it all into accounting for you. Not only did we post immediately a receiving, it generated a GL entry, and I'm going to show that very shortly. It also updated the quantity on hand. So as I drill down on that, you'll notice that today on this receiving number internal 221, just calling the last 3 digits, we received that for a quantity of 10 and an expected cost of $100 because the per unit cost is $10. So what that immediately tells you is that in real time, it's affecting inventory so you can ship right away. Most importantly, from an accounting perspective, if I drill down to the GL entries, you will notice that it's got the debits and credit entries. What are they? Well, 2250 happens to be my accrual account from a liability perspective, and 1401 was my accrual account for inventory. So now just imagine for a second that you never received this invoice at the end of the month. Do you have to worry about calling the vendor for this? Well, you don't need to. You've already accrued it, so it's one less thing you have to worry about. Now, what I also want to accentuate here, so I'm going to skip it later today, is that once the invoice arrives, whether next week, next month, next year, it doesn't matter when, this accrual will remain in place. But once it comes in, it will reverse this accrual and record what the cost is at the time. If it's the same, great. If it's different, the system will adjust it for you. Now that you've seen that from a receiving perspective, let's go ahead and go back to the sales order and go ahead and go through the shipping process of that so you can see what that looks like. So I'm just going to go back to my main page in here. I'm going to go into my sales order, and I'm going to open up, and again, the filter there, sorry, I accidentally saved it. I'm just going to relieve that filter, and I'm going to go in here and open up number 12. So at this point, if I scroll down to the bottom right-hand side here, you can see in real time that instead of having 10, we now have 20 because 10 plus 10 is 20. And of course, if you do the math, we now have 7 available because before we had -3. Now, what I'm about to show you is the shipping process of the sales order, just to show you how easy it is. But I'm also, again, going to show you as an integration with the warehouse department. Okay, if you have that if you do want the warehousing functionality. However, I also want you to appreciate this. If you're going, Oliver, we're too small of a company for that. I don't want to have to use that extra step. The person that's doing the order entry is actually the same person that's doing the shipment. Is there an easier method to do that? The answer is yes. You don't actually have to use the warehouse shipment. I can go in here and just literally from here say, I want to ship 5. However, if you do have it turned on, it's going to remind you, hey, Oliver, yeah, are you sure you want to just ship it from here or you want to use the warehouse shipment? So I'm just going to say, okay, that's fine. I'm going to let you ship from here. If I wanted to use the warehouse shipment, I could have done this as well. Actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to pretend to do it, but skip the process. So we actually make that very easy for your software. If you want the warehouse department to ship this because it's not your responsibility, watch this. I'm going to click on actions here. I'm going to click on warehouse. I'm not actually going to click it because you kind of knew what it looked like when you saw the warehouse receipt, except that it's now called warehouse shipment. What this will do, if I hit this, is that it will automatically create that warehouse shipment document for you. It will automatically push this record into that warehouse shipment, as opposed to what we did earlier when we created the warehouse receipt and pulled it in. That makes sense when you're receiving, because really the event trigger there is the doorbell rang and the dock door opened and you've got delivery. At this point, when you're selling and shipping, what's the event trigger? The event trigger is someone telling you, please ship this. So that's why in this case, you can create the warehouse shipment from within the sales order, thus in this case, pushing that request to the warehouse department. So I'm going to skip that step because I think I've satisfied you enough that you know that there is a warehouse shipping functionality in the software similar to warehouse receiving. But I do also want to emphasize that there is a pick process associated with shipping, opposite of put away. So in the future, should you decide a much more detailed demo from us, if you want to start looking at Business Central, I could show you that. So at this case, the scenario is I'm the order entry person. I'm the one doing the shipping, so I'm going to keep it simple for myself. I'm going to say I'm going to ship all 5 of them. I'm going to hit post, and by shipping it, I'm now telling the software that the sales order has been shipped. How do I know it's been shipped? I just did it, and of course, the software updated the quantity shipped field, and in real time, it tells you that you only have 15 available. What's most important as well, because sometimes there is lag in time, whether it's days or hours, days, or weeks, there's really no reason why this sales order should remain open without being invoiced. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go to related, and I'm going to go to documents, and I'm going to go to shipments. So similar to what you saw earlier when we had the posted receipt, we have the sales shipment associated with the sales order. Obviously, if I'm the order person and I'm the one who shipped it, there's no need for me to find out what this is. But imagine if the shipping department shipped it, and I'm the order entry person, and or salesperson, and want to see when it was shipped or what was shipped, I can open up that document and say process, manage, view the document. So here it is. You can see we shipped 5, and you knew that. Now here's the important part. Similar to from an accounting perspective, similar to the posted receipt, okay, it will record all those entries in the database. So in this case, from an item ledger entry perspective, which is your inventory subledger, it's going to tell me I shipped 2 out. Okay, my apologies, I forgot to put a price in there by accident, but you can imagine I would have a price in there if I, sorry, there's no price yet, sorry, because I haven't invoiced yet. My apologies. And it at least says I've got -5, okay? And the cost itself is $50 because, as you saw earlier, I bought it for $10 each. However, from an accounting perspective, whatever you did in the subledger, similar to the receiving, it also reflected it on the the GL side. As you can see, it put an accrual here for me. What it's doing is negatively affecting my inventory so that my subledger and my GL are reconciled from a month-end perspective, and it accrued the cost of goods sold. And by the way, I've been meaning to change this. This is my fault, but it's really not my fault because 50% of customers like to put it in this account, 50% a balance sheet account, 50% likes to put it in a cost of sale account. Bottom line is this is your debit to your accrual for the cost of that item that you just shipped. Okay, so I'm going to close this out. And what's the final thing that we would do that's logical? A logical next step is, of course, to invoice the sales order so we can finish that entire process up. So to invoice it, it's very simple. You identify the date that you want to invoice it, which financially this will go into my November period, whether or not I'm on calendar or I start my fiscal year anytime during the year. I'm going to invoice 5 out of the 5 that I've shipped. The system will not allow me to invoice more than what I've shipped. So it's very easy. I'm going to go into posting here. So I'm just going to click post. However, if you so choose to, through the setup, you can set up email addresses. In fact, you can set up multiple email addresses so that emails will go out to one or more person that should receive this invoice from the customer side. Of course, I'm going to skip that for now. I'm just going to post it. And in this case, I'm just going to do invoice. Now, you'll notice I've got a ship and invoice functionality here. Why is that important? It's important because, again, we want to make things easier for you. So imagine you're the order entry person that does the shipping at the same time, but at the same time, you want to generate the invoice in real time so you can affix that along with the bill of lading to the box, to the pallet, to the delivery of package that you're delivering to the customer. So at this point, I'm just going to hit OK. As soon as I do that in real time, of course, it's going to generate that invoice. For demo purposes and training purposes, I like to have this pop-up message pop up. You can turn this off if you want to once you're live. What it does, allows me to see what that looks like in the background internally, what the document looks like posted. From here, you can always click print, send if you want to email that to the customer again. For instance, if you're doing your AR collection and the customer says, you know, I never got that invoice number 15 that you were talking about. So can you please resend that to me? So imagine being able to do that directly from here once you found it. From here, if I go into invoice and I go to fine entries, you can see all the debits and credits as well. Of course, you would have expected based on everything that you've seen so far that, of course, it's going to do in real time all the debits and credits in terms of the revenue, cost of goods sold, inventory, and so on. Again, I'm just trying to accentuate the fact that at this point, the software will inherently update this information for you. In addition, I also want you to be aware of, this is more of a discussion later on for finance, in that if you look at the screen here, you can see that we have GL accounts, but we also have what we call dimensions. So you can allocate and distribute these expenses, cost of goods sold, revenue, et cetera, to different dimension code, whether it's customer type, product type. So what that means for you from an advanced perspective is that you can slice and dice your financial based on dimensionality, because that's definitely what's missing in a lot of different applications today, particularly QuickBooks. So I'm going to close that out, close that out, close that out. And finally, just to finish everything else off, we're going to go back to that purchase order that we did earlier. And we're going to go to number 9. And we're going to go ahead and post that, just because that's the final step, just so you can see how easy it is. I put in the vendor's invoice number in here. We've shipped 10, received 10. Now I need to invoice 10. And I'm going to go ahead and post that. I'm just going to say receive an invoice because technically I don't have anything to receive anyhow. And it's done that. I don't need to look at it. I'm sure you can imagine that the software will update that. But similar to the sales order on a purchase order as well, once that purchase order or sales order has been fully received / shipped and invoiced, the purchase order or sales order will disappear, taking us fully into a complete cycle of a sales order with integration to purchasing, integration to warehousing, integration to the GL, inventory subledger, as well as now you've seen invoicing from a sales and purchase perspective.
Thank you, Oliver. That was really exciting and quite detailed. I hope everyone enjoyed the demo as much as I did. Again, if you would like additional information or would like to set up a one-on-one demo to see the product again, please feel free to contact us and we would be happy to provide a demo for you. You can also visit our website, www.crmdynamics.com. I would like to thank you all for taking the time to attend our presentation today, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.